Welcome back to the Logan's Run project. I am your host. Nice to have you back. Let's see. Let me get my glasses on here. I have really crappy glasses. You see these? It's junk. They're junk. They are literally dime store pharmacy junk glasses. I need to go Warby Parker somewhere. I need to go get some real glasses. Actually, I need to get my eyes checked. I know my eyes. I had really good eyesight for a long time in my life. Those days are over. And I just realized I needed something, especially looking at small things up close. That's my main problem. And I just went into a drugstore, found these that kind of fit, and grabbed them. But I need to actually get my eyes checked and get it done properly. And not having ever had glasses before, I also really don't know how to take care of them or do anything. So I definitely will need scratch resistance, whatever resistant glasses. So when you see me futzing around with my glasses, part of it is because I'm not used to them. I'm not used to having them around. I'm not used to trying to keep them clean or clear. It's something I'm dealing with. All right. Just to get into things, I don't think I have any notes. I was hoping we would have. I can always say that, I always hear that. I was hoping. I wasn't really hoping. I really don't know what the pace of these is going to be yet. I don't know how things are going to go. I don't know how much time is a good amount of time on each area. We started off, or I should say, in the last session, we went through and asked and answered some questions. These are the worlds without number questions about our world and the world and region levels of our setting. I've just opened up our Kanban chart, or at least my repurposed Kanban, because it just seemed to be pretty easy to have a couple of columns, 3 columns. I'm using Miro, free version of Miro, which for our purposes works fine. I might need something more robust, at least as far as the capabilities. I really like the open whiteboard nature. It seems like you can I don't know, it seems like it's limitless. You can just keep adding, just keep scrolling off to the side of your whiteboard and add more stuff, which I really appreciate. If I run into some kind of limitations later on, we might have to rethink it. I wouldn't mind paying for it per se. I just don't like everything is subscription based. I really would just like to say, here's 20, let me give you $20 for a good tool, and then we can just go our separate ways. And if you come out with another version and I like it, I can re-up. But I don't need any more endless subscriptions. I don't have the money for endless subscriptions. So, I'm in the free version. So we'll see. It's working out right now so far. I think I mentioned also the other thing, just from a logistics standpoint, is I'm using a web-based stream manager, if you will, interface, which only allows me to share one screen at a time. If I really feel like I need to be showing multiple screens back and forth, I might need to switch to OBS, which gives me more control, where I can make all kinds of different windows. It's a little bit more of a pain in the butt. I just find this very easy, but if I have to do that, I will. But so far, I've only really needed to have 2 things open. I went back and forth in the last stream between having Worlds Without Number visible versus this screen. I think this towards the end of that last stream, I just kind of kept it on the Miro screen because this is where I was adding stuff in anyway. I'm going to keep going with that. We'll see how it goes. Obviously, this is an open conversation, right? So you guys let me know if you feel like, no, we really need to see this or that, or hey, we think this view, if you have an idea, hey, this kind of view would be better, let me know. Hey, nothing says, I refuse to do subscription software. I don't like it, even if it saves you money. I just don't want it. Yeah, I mean, obviously over time they don't save you money, right? Because no matter how, unless you're paying just an insane amount of money, if this is a piece of software you're going to use, that X amount of dollars over its lifetime or your lifetime, it's probably going to be more than any one-time payment you're going to make. Which is why, even though cell phones, they cost a fortune if you buy them outright, over time you spend money because those however many year contracts that you buy, when you say, hey, we're going to give you this for free or super reduced price, they get you on the back end. So you get out of the back end and spending. The other thing is, for an app like Miro, I get it in the sense that, hey, this is this is a web-based application. It's online. It's collaborative, which means we have servers we have to do, blah, blah, blah. I understand they have recurring costs in terms of servers and things like that. But I could also just say, look, so just give me an offline version. I'll pay you a one-time fee for offline Miro. And then I'll just say, I don't need the online Miro. And if I do, then I can pay for it. But I don't have those. They don't give those kind of options. So I just got to go with what I have. None of this is it can only save you money if you only need it for a short time. Yeah, if you only need a monthly software for a short burst, and then you remember to shut it off. I'm infamous for forgetting that I'm paying for stuff, and then it's 8 months later I'm thinking, oh, I thought I turned this off. No, I'm still paying for it. Yeah, if you remember to turn them off, you can save money that way. But I am digging Miro, and if I end up doing a bunch of stuff with Miro, and I end up being able to salt away a little bit of money from YouTube and everything, where I could say, hey, look, I've had the whatever amount of $20 a month for Miro, and I have $20 a month coming in, and okay, great, I could happily zero those out if I'm using Miro all the time. But I'm not there yet. I ain't there yet. So we're just gonna go with the free version. But this is all lovely talk, but it is not anything to do with Logan's Run. So let's move to Logan's Run. Just to give a bit of a primer for folks who may have missed or didn't get the other streams, we went through and we had already put together a whole bunch of information about what we had gleaned from our viewing of Logan's Run in this wonderful Mindmap-y chart we put together. It has all kinds of stuff, and these are all living documents. We will continually be going back to them, putting things back in, figuring things out. We then took all that, and then we finally... then that was session 1. We just basically went through all that. Then the other session, last session, session 2, I should say, episode 2, we started asking and answering questions about the world and region levels. Now we're going into the kingdom level, which Worlds Without Number calls it the kingdom level. I would say maybe a local level. However you want to phrase it. I suppose it's supposed to be basically one. They call it kingdom because they really mean one nation, one organized group, however you want to call that. And in fact, as I'm looking at it, they even say, hey, we don't mean literally a kingdom. It might mean any number of things. So for us, a kingdom would be the domes, specifically would be a kingdom. We don't have whatever our kingdom ends up being, whatever our group ends up being for, say, outside the dome, that might be one other kingdom, or I should say, actually, really, there's 2 kingdoms in the domes, right? We have 2 cultures inside the domes, 2 competing nations in those spaces. I imagine each dome kind of being either its own. So maybe there's something to hash out now. I consider that there's a number of domes. Each dome is essentially independent or quasi-independent. Maybe they have alliances, maybe they have relationships, maybe they don't. So I imagine in my brain that there's multiple of these domes, and prior to Logan making his run and starting this whole change that's resulting in this new world that we're exploring, the domes were more or less aligned. They may have had their own leaderships. They may have had their own AIs. Maybe all the AIs are essentially talking together. That's another thing. They could all be kind of united. At this point now, where we are, Logan's Run has happened. Some of the domes are still attempting to hold to the older status quo, and then some domes are in some state of change. Maybe one of them or 2 of them have completely flipped, and the sanctuary people are in charge. Maybe there's 1 or 2 that are in flux. It's currently being in conflict, in a state of some level of chaos between the carousel renewal people and the sanctuary people, and then there's some that are still as of yet untouched by this conflict. At least that's how I'm figuring it. Nothing says they can live under the dome virtually unknown to the humans or dome dwellers. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Oh wait, I'm skipping ahead. Let me go back. Let me see the first message. So let's see. Forget I read that last part. Let's start at the top. Now nothing says idea. This dome or another could have a cast of dwarves that maintain the dome but don't remember why they do the things they do, so they're still good craftsmen but not engineers, and they could live under the dome virtually unknown to the humans or dome dwellers. Yeah, we could have there could be a lot of interesting things, right? Really depending on how fantasy we want to turn stuff. There could be all kinds of stuff happening that the main culture is unaware of. any number. Like you could have, if you wanted to do dwarves, could be dwarves. They could be gnomes. They could be some kind of elf. We could make up our own species. It's clear from Box that there's certainly workings of the domes that have been forgotten by everybody. The management AI has forgotten about them, if they ever knew about them. Maybe at some point it's just outside the purview of those programs. And even though those programs became the sort of overlords by who knows what we haven't discovered, we haven't thought about why. Maybe that happened, but that there was just stuff that was just outside of that, and they never got that knowledge. Maybe they never seeked it out. Maybe they sought it out. Maybe there's some interdiction that they couldn't override. You are the city AI. Your authority, your power stops at the city seals. If there are other things that power our cities that exist outside the city seals or outside this particular perimeter, that's just not your territory. You don't worry about it. Other things will take care of it. And then, yeah, there could be all kinds of stuff in, around, underneath that is just outside their particular purview, but that players could discover. So we answered some questions about the region. We answered some questions about about the world, about the region. Now we're at that kingdom level. I can stick my glasses on, put those glasses on so I can get a better look at the PDF. That's PDF. Okay, question number 1 on the kingdom level. And let's see, can I do this so I can copy paste the text and make it a little bit easier than myself? How do I change the tools? Riveting things I could have figured out before I started the stream, but I didn't. All right, never mind. I'm just going to type it. That's fine. You guys can see by super messy typing, or hear it. If you're listening to this later, you'll just get to hear the little clickety clack of my laptop keyboard. Okay, pick a linguistic touchstone and give your kingdom or area a name. Okay, so right off the bat, a linguistic touchstone. Okay, so I'm going to read a little bit of the description so we can get a little bit of a better handle on what it's asking us here. This language is likely the tongue of the current or historical dominant group in the region. Conventional fantasy names tend to be random nonsense syllables picked from the creator's cultural phoneme stock. Places often end up as the city of adjective noun or the noun river. While some of this can work perfectly well, it's easier for the GM to pick some obscure or extinct real-world language known to nobody at the table and use it for names. Even if the words they use from it have no relation to what they're naming, the consistent set of sounds and syllable patterns will help give a coherent feel to the work. I'm fine to go with English as the linguistic touchstone. And I have books. I don't have them on me, but if we get into more naming, I have some Middle English books. We could pick Middle English. I'd like to pick some other ones up. So maybe something like a medieval German, or I don't know, something else that's cool. But we'll just go with English as a linguistic touchstone. Now the name. So we've been calling these guys we've been referring to them by their belief system, right? Which is renewal or carousel. I'm not sure what would they call themselves. I don't think they ever say anything because it's essentially an internal story. They never talk about themselves in terms of what others might call them. They don't say we are the English, right? And they're not. They do mention some of the groups, the outsiders that they have. So they mention crazies, they mention cubs, runners, these kinds of things, which are somewhat factions, subgroups, but they're not true outsiders. I'm not sure what they would call themselves. I mean, how do they think about themselves? Do they think about themselves still as survivors? I don't think so. I think whatever this culture has morphed into. My feeling is that just my own, we haven't established a timeline. We haven't gotten into the history part of it, but it seems to me from kind of what we have and kind of the direction I feel like things are moving, that there were the The culture who went into the domes is both similar and both profoundly different to the culture that is currently in the domes. Obviously, when they first came into the domes and established it, they knew why. They knew all the workings because they had done them. They did have some different beliefs because they built something called the cathedral, which clearly has a religious belief that is no longer being used. I'm sure that they were running the AI as opposed to the AI running them. But maybe they had a good future sight. I read Isaac Asimov's Foundation a long time ago, but I did just start the Apple series, the Foundation Apple series. And the interesting thing there was they're trying to set up, or the one guy, I forget his name, setting up this idea of we need to set up some kind of knowledge source because we know that we're going to go in this dark age for umpteen years, 1,000 years, whatever it is, and we need to be able to come out of it. So having this kind of knowledge base was going to help us when we come out of the other side. Maybe the builders, the original dome dwellers, knew that as this thing goes on, as the generations go by, the knowledge that we have is going to be lost. Maybe some of it we want to lose on purpose. Maybe there's some things that, hey, we had a nuclear, if it was a nuclear holocaust situation, we had nuclear war. We don't want that knowledge being reborn, or we need to push it off as far as possible. We need to set up some kind of rhythm of life and some way of doing these day-to-day things that need to be done, staying within certain parameters for the safety of all. Because I'm sure at one point the idea of, hey, we can only have so many people alive. We can't have a lot of old people who can't really contribute but are still using up resources because resources are scarce. So we need to put in this whole system of life clocks and all that. But we understand that it's not going to last, right? They may have thought of themselves as survivors. That might have been the name for themselves. We're the survivors. We're the whatever. The new culture, the culture that sort of either, who knows if it happened just gradually as just people died off and knowledge was lost, whatever. Maybe there was some other past event that sped up this change. I don't see the people who are living there. You don't get the sense that Sandmen and those folks are the people who are going around with their life clocks really think of themselves as being survivors. Life is kind of what they see. I think they see, oh, whatever we're doing, that's just life. Frederick Cork says, hey, Frederick, in Mastar, the nuclear waste is creating magic. That's a cool idea. And we could have something similar here with this whole, I also think of Shadowrun as that something happens and it blows, it kind of pulls magic into a world that was essentially our world, right? And it goes from a magicless place to a magical place. So I'm not sure what they would call themselves. I don't think they would call themselves the Domes. Carousel, I mean, I know they believe in that as a belief, but I don't think that because I don't think they see themselves as having other truths. Because it's a monocultural place, right? There's no, oh, I believe in the domes, and you don't. It's either you believe in, or Carousel. You believe in Carousel or you're a heretic. There's no concept of, oh, you're of a different belief system than I am, or, oh, you're from a different geographical area than I am. Right? They don't have it. It seems to me they think that their world is basically whatever's in the dome is essentially the world. Citizens, yeah, that's an interesting one. The citizens, I kind of like that. I like that. We'll take that as a first note. Nice job there, Frederick. Citizens is a good one because it brings in a lot of the elements of their existence right now, because it demands a certain amount of group. One, it's group identity, which I think they hold on pretty strongly. Responsibility to other citizens. You as a citizen have to do these things. And it's life or death for them. You have to renew. You have to go through these things. We have these mechanisms to keep you in line, but essentially you should feel this responsibility to your fellow to go through with the things we've agreed upon, because if you don't, you're putting everybody at risk. I like that. Citizens. Cool. And we can come back to it. We can revisit it if we come up with other things, but that's a good. And we could probably riff on that to think about maybe a noun as opposed to, like, if the people are citizens, is it the citizenry? I wouldn't say it's a democracy, but the citizens is a good start. So we'll go with the citizens, and we can feel free to come back out. Okay, flesh out its history. That's the next thing. All right, let's put this in here. Flesh out its history. So what? Oops. Well, maybe a tab would bring me down there, but it didn't. Okay. Worlds Without Numbers says you already have an event or two related to it that you generate at the regional level. Now take those same tables and add 3 or 4 more events. These historical circumstances might have been localized to a specific area of the kingdom, or there might have been nationwide happenings. It's not necessary to have a year-by-year timeline of the past, but a half dozen solid events can inform the kingdom's current state. Okay, so I'm just gonna, let's see, I can rename this, I think. Yeah, I'm gonna rename this just so we know that this is the, I guess we'll call it the citizenry. I think that's how it's spelled. All right. We had some events. We did assign some events before. Now I can put their name in, which was the original catastrophe and the discovery of sanctuary. So I'm just going to copy paste those. Take those out. We're going back in here. All right. Oops. Okay. So they have the catastrophe at the very beginning. This is essentially their foundational story, right? This is the foundational story. Everything that they've had to do is to deal with this catastrophe that destroyed, for their knowledge, destroyed the outside world and put them in this situation. And we have a, let's see. So it said having about a half dozen. So I think let's put a couple in there. Whoops. Oh, yeah, I forgot. It's going to make me do that. And then I definitely want to have at least one after Sanctuary, which probably could be the, let's just call it the fall of the first dome. We don't have a name for the Sanctuary people yet. I'm just going to put them close. All right. So we need a couple in here. What other things could have happened? These could be, let's see, these don't have to be massive events, but they need to be significant in some way, right? But they don't have to be all World War, national, global, to them at least, global things, but things that have some significance going forward. So we have the catastrophe, basically set up this whole deal. Obviously, Discovery being Sanctuary, or just the Discovery of Sanctuary was a world-shaking event for them. The fall of the first dome is only slightly less world-shaking than Sanctuary being discovered at all. What else might they have? Is there anything else that we can point to? I'm just going to close this quickly. We can kind of go back through some of the aspects that we know. We don't know. We know they're in year 2274 of the city when Logan's Run starts, and we're now at 2294, I think is kind of what we settled on. So they've had over 2,000 plus years, presuming that the year of the city started with the first dome builders. Could they have discovered? Is there anything in here is there any discoveries maybe they could have made? They don't seem to be that there. It doesn't seem like there are lots of inventors or things. I think one of the things that's maybe interesting is how they've been in a very different way than, say, in the what was that Pixar movie? Was it Up? No, not Up. What a Pixar movie, Little Robot. How humanity had become infantilized. They went into space and were living on basically a cruise ship. In some ways, Logan's Run is really similar to that. It's actually, I think I had never really thought about it before, but there's a lot of notes in that movie that kind of match up. It's just that the infantilization in the Pixar movie is very childlike, whereas the one in Logan's Run is a lot more decadent. They're living, it's a lot of sex, drugs, not really any rock and roll per se, but a a lot of that kind of stuff and not sort of just becoming fat because everyone's kind of fit and good looking and it seems like they're taking part in a very hedonistic culture. But in the same way, it also doesn't seem like they have any real responsibilities. Only a few citizens have real responsibilities, and those are basically the Sandmen. Wally says Elfbait, thank you. Nothing says the event that caused them to abandon their religion, call it the completion. They view it as the completion of the dome builder's vision, even if it's not. All right, yeah, that's a good idea. I have nothing, no reason not to do that. We'll have to make a note so you can remember. Okay, so abandon the original. I'm just going to call it culture. We can think of a few things, right? So we can call it what? Completion of the dome. Let's see, the discard of the, I'll put it again in quotes. I'm using a lot of quotes. I know the cathedral religion. Maybe also the handoff to AI leadership. How did that happen? What event spurred them? It could be one event, it could be multiple. When they decided, or what happened with the AI to put the AI in the driver's seat. Because I think it's clear from the movie, which I like, that the AI is kind of in control. Maybe there's some sort of secret council. There's some. Was it the stone cutters that are behind all of it? Some kind of version of the Knights Templar have some kind of round table behind it, but it seems pretty clear for the most part the AI took command. But I also don't think that people just did that from the start. That was probably not their idea from the start. But maybe as things happen, even something really bad happens, some kind of bad thing, they realize that people can no longer be trusted with control of the city. We've got to put it on to autopilot. And that could very well have to do with something happening at the same time to their religion. So let's see. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got 4, maybe another one before Sanctuary. And this could also be, we could have a combo. So maybe it's, maybe we'll split these up. All right. We could say, we already have abandonment. Oh, it doesn't matter. I was going to say, we shouldn't use the same words over and over, but who cares? This is just for us. Fall of the cathedral religion. And actually, I'm going to put the handoff to the AI also as separate. We don't have to merge all these into one. They can be closely associated in terms of time. I mean, I'll call this, I'm going to say abandonment, but transition. Some kind of transition from. Let's see. What do you think came first, the religion or the AI? Ooh, that's an interesting one. I'll put it afterwards right now. But we can come back to that because that's an interesting idea of are they related? Did something happen with the religion that caused people to abandon it and feel the need to hand it off to the AI, or was it the AI that through some of its subroutines or some of its procedures or things that were programmed into it decided that whatever that old religion wasn't working or needed to be stopped? Did somebody say, yeah, we can't have that religion? Maybe actually, now that I keep thinking more and more, I'll put the religion afterwards. Let's put it afterwards. Okay. Now we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Awesome. We are cooking with gas, as they say. Okay. All right. The history has some flesh. What is next? Decide how it is ruled and identify the ruler. Well, that one's an easy one right now, at least in terms of what we're thinking. Decide how it is ruled and identify the ruler. Wanting to tab across, I can't. Okay, so the citizenry is ruled by an AI. let's see. Decide how it is ruled. So I guess it really is a dictatorship, right? I dictatorship. I know they don't really see it that way. I don't. It's interesting because do they really feel like they are ruled at all? I don't know that they. I don't know that it's ever. I don't know that they ever address that. Do people? Because I think like if you're a normal citizen and you're not breaking any rules, the and they don't seem to have very many rules to begin with. People don't. I mean, that's the interesting thing about if we want to look at the positives of living in this system is within your unnaturally short but still your span of years. You don't seem to have very much responsibilities. It seems like Sandmen are running all of the main bureaucracy. I presume you have jobs. We don't know what other people's jobs are, but people, I guess, seem to run things. There seem to be people doing things. Then you just get to kind of have fun. It doesn't even look. I don't even remember if they ever deal with some kind of currency. It's very idealistic in many ways. That people may not even the rules. The idea that someone's actually ruling them might feel very far removed from their day-to-day experience. All right, we have there's still more questions. All right, this one's another kind of easy one for us at this point. This question is, or fill in the whatever it's identify the enemies of the rulers. Well, we're given a couple, right? We're given the runners. I'm going to put slash also, which is also the sanctuary culture. They're kind of the same, but maybe not quite because people can choose to run and not be part of the sanctuary culture, and the sanctuary culture isn't in hand with every runner. But I think they are kind of the same. I think to the citizenry, it's the same threat. They're both after the same things. We can split them up, but that's kind of the basic idea. We don't really know much about the crazies. They're out there somewhere. We got the Cubs, and whether the Cubs are really, I feel like the Cubs are more. I said before, I feel like they're on more of a nuisance than a threat. They're pseudo organized, but in a very limited way. They are basically trapped in one sector. Though it didn't seem like from the film that they were trying to get out. It just seems like they throw themselves in the cathedral, and then they basically, I don't know if anybody comes to the cathedral, they just mess with them. They don't seem to have much higher aspirations, and they also seem to have very, very clear boundaries, not only in terms of space but in time. Because once you reach a certain age, you get kicked out, or I presume killed by your own people. So, but I suppose they are crazy. And then we have whatever outside the dome, any kind of dome outsiders. From the wilderness. Those would definitely be enemies, though. We haven't really defined them much, but anything basically outside is going to be an enemy. Okay, here's one that should be kind of good for some thought. Oh, and as I'm doing these, how do you guys feel about these questions? What do you think? You find this stuff useful? I mean, because part of the whole exercise, right, is to go through these steps with something to kind of demonstrate either the usefulness or lack thereof of these. So let me know. I'm curious. And if you're in the chat right now, type it up in the chat. If you're watching or listening to this later on, then feel free to drop me a comment. Like, what do you think? I mean, now that we're going through these tools and using it, do we feel like we're getting good, valuable information? Because the whole reason we're doing this is ideally is to make creating this to sort of have a good workflow in creating a campaign setting and doing so in a way that's going to make sense. It's going to be easier. It's going to save us work and generate ideas and stuff. So let me know how you think it's going. If you feel like as we're going through this that this is helpful, or maybe it read more helpful when I was just reading it, or you read it on your own, then maybe it seems now. But right now we're on choose one or more problems or goals it's facing. Okay. Big one is I'm going to put, I don't want to say truth, but it is an existential kind of threat. The existence of sanctuary, i.e. renewal isn't necessary and life can exist outside of the domes and carousel. That's definitely a problem. Or I guess maybe I'll just make it clear that we're calling this a problem. Problem. That is a problem. All right, sanctuary exists. Not just in terms of, hey, you can live outside the dome, but also the fact is that you don't need to give up yourself at 30 years old or 33 years old or whatever they're saying. And nothing points out the truth. The problem faced by all governments. Yes, exactly. Exactly. All right. What they don't want you to know. So yes, that is definitely problem number one. What goals might they have? What goals might they have? Well, certainly they want to take back the dome. That's a goal. Take back, and I'll put in parentheses. We haven't really decided how many domes the sanctuary culture has taken. But an interesting thing to think about. So these are the two things that immediately come to mind. The biggest problem: sanctuary exists now. Renewal on some level can be shown to be false, even if the sanctuary culture didn't exist. The fact is, there are people who were living outside the domes. They were living, surviving, no life clocks, weren't being renewed. Everything was going okay, presumably multiplying, doing their own deal. Okay, so their whole, everything that they've based their society on both fronts, on a practical front and a religious front, has basically been shown to be not true, at least on the surface. And we can have levels to it, or maybe there's things wrong with the outside that are not immediately apparent, all that stuff. But on the surface, they've got the citizenry have problems basically on all sides from them. And certainly one goal would be, what can we do? We can try to squelch. We got to take back the dome that's been freed. And unfortunately, probably have to just murder all the people in it, because their belief can't coexist right now with the other belief. There's no, I would imagine from them, there's no real synthesizing these two things. If you believe in carousel, you can't have that other belief that we don't need it anymore. Oh look, there's a scarcity of resources because we're only have these domes and nothing else. Nope, there's an outside world. There's, heck, even outside of, even not even including that, there's this other resources. Okay, well, we can't, then why do we need to keep doing this? I don't know. Just because we only so many souls in the world, we got to keep renewing them. No, that's not true either. Okay, so what are we doing? Right? That these are tough, but I'd like to think about a goal. Oh, now nothing says reading in between the lines. It seems like systems in the dome might be starting to fail. That's an interesting one. That's certainly something we could play with, right? Because we don't get much of it in the movie. What we do get, and the movies are inspiration. We don't need to be tied to it. But yes, we do get the fact that they've forgotten about Box. Box has been doing his thing and has been forgotten about. Even the AI, I don't know if the AI knows that the Ankhs are keys, or just that the Ankhs are the symbols of the sanctuary culture. It's unclear if if the AI even knows, because the AI basically says, yeah, we'll unlock the city seals for you. I think it says something like that. But other than that, it might not know. It may be forgetting. We mentioned the fact that the AI clearly don't know everything. It could be that the AI memory is being overridden. Maybe it's long-term memory storage, whatever things it's written on are starting to fail or fill up, and it's having to overwrite stuff. I mean, it's been going on for 2,000 years plus. maybe the original builders didn't think it would take this long to get back up, and maybe didn't even realize that how their society would morph. They might have realized this a generation or so in and then made changes, but not been able to because they didn't have access to the same technology that that these things would fail. So that's actually a good I'll put that as a goal, because I wanted to give them a goal that wasn't just squelch the other cultures, but I like the idea that they need to repair or rebuild. So let's make a list here: repair, rebuild, recapture lost or damaged dome technology systems. Because it could be that they can. It seems like what the Sandmen are capable of is doing the maintenance. Now they can sit in their computers. Beep, 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 beep. Okay, they can turn some dials. Okay, they can do this or that. And I'm sure with some problems up to a certain point, they can deal with it. They've got a storehouse of tools and gadgets and vehicles and things to be able to do certain things. But then there becomes bigger problems that presumably must have happened over time. That could even be part of why the cathedral is closed. It might have nothing to do with the religion failing. It might have everything to do with there was a catastrophic failure of some system that made the cathedral unsafe in some way, maybe even just for a time. But the fact is, even though, let's say if there was, I don't know, a dangerous gas leak or something in the sanctuary, something in the cathedral that made it uninhabitable or whatever, like they could kind of patch it at a certain point, but not repair it. So since it had gotten into a mess, they just said, all right, we just need to close it off. Maybe there are other parts of the city, these domes, that they've just closed off because we can't, it's past the point of repairing. All we can do is seal it. We don't even want to demolish it, because demolishing that would present an issue to the citizenry who don't believe anything's wrong. To them, everything's as it always was in this kind of fairy tale, never-ending childhood. So we don't want to break that for various reasons by saying, no, stuff's really coming apart. But behind the scenes, if only the AI knows, but maybe they know, and it's possible that they want to do something. And that's also a nice adventure hook if you wanted to play Sandmen or something else, but you didn't want to deal with the runners and the sanctuary people, the sanctuary culture. Like, it easily be adventures as to go into these different parts of the city. We got to get Box back online. We got to get something in the hydro tunnels has gone awry. What's down there? What's happened down there? We need to fix it, and we need to recapture, refine. There's maybe storehouses that were lost. We need to find them again. There could be total levels, all kinds of levels above and below to the sides of the domes that they just locked up and forgot about. So I like that a lot. All right, so I think that's good for some goals. They're very broad right now, but that's okay. So we're going to get into doing that. Next question. All right, so we're getting on to make a rough map of the area. Let's see. Well, I'm going to do, okay, so I don't have a tool to do, I could do a city map. I have Worldographer. I don't think I have the city map. Do I? Do I have the city map part? Let's see. Let's see if I can do that. I don't know how it will work. All right, I'm going to put the city aside for now. I think actually that would be better running as a point crawl, because it seems like the main way people get around is on those tubes anyway. So we'll point crawl that out. We'll point crawl, and that way I can stay in Miro and not have to duck out yet into Worldographer. So let's kind of put it over here. I'm going to do a lot of. All right, so let's mind map this out. I'm going to say that the center, which is going to be convenient since we're doing it. The center of everything is I wonder if there's a different thing, because I know there are different ways of doing these mind maps. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Is there something a different kind of new-ish? Let's see. We got mind maps. Add more apps. I don't know what you're asking me to do, Mira. You just went gray. Okay, never mind. Can I back out? Whoops. Too hasty. All right, let's see if they're different. Let's see, Miro. What kind of tools does Miro have that might? I'd like something where let's see, mapping and diagram. I'd like something wireframes. Okay, I'm not trying to do plugins. I don't need icon finder. Okay, these seem like more like. All right. No, I don't want these. Whoops. No, I'm not trying to do Google Sheets. Thank you, Miro. Miro plugins, embed Miro icon, design tools. I think I want. No. These are not what I want. All right, not what I want. I'm not trying to go to the marketplace. I guess we'll go with the mind map. Never mind. All right, mind map. So we have the what we call this? I'm just going to call it the Renewal Plaza. That's the center. Excuse me. Okay, we got the Renewal Plaza. Everything we're just assuming is connected by tubes. I mean, really, I could just copy and paste everything from. Because we came up with all these different locations. It seems like everything is kind of tubes. I wonder if there's a way, because I'd like everything to be. See, I'm getting it. This is what happens with me. Not necessarily with me, but like I want a certain look that it's not giving me, but I guess I'm just going to have to go with it. Okay, so we've got. I don't know. I feel like we don't really. You know what? I'm gonna. I'm just kind of starting it now. I'm thinking like I feel like we don't really need it right now. We're gonna point crawl it out. I think. I think I'm just gonna leave this alone. I'll leave it here, but I think I'm just gonna skip that because I think basically everything we kind of already did that here for the most part. Some of these aren't exactly single location, but essentially tubes are connecting everything to all the different major elements are connected via tubes. I think we can kind of figure that out. So I'm going to leave that aside. And apologies for my internal monologue as I'm deciding what to do that or not. Okay, place ethnic groups and demi-humans. Let's just go to that one. So we don't really have any at the moment. I think we're going to start off. We're going to say that essentially the citizenry. I'm just going to say it's a complete melange of human ethnicities, just a big mix. There's no particular any kind of internal cultures and everything has long ago been homogenized. Everybody essentially is if you were to open up they were going to do a DNA test, they would just find essentially a hodgepodge of everything. Right? There's no particular ethnicity, no particular it's the whole range of humanity is all mixed together now. And then at least I'm going to put no visible demi-human presence. That way, if we want to add them in as kind of a hidden factor later, of course, we're always free to come back and change our mind. This is just our initial, right? It's just our initial thoughts. It's just human. And of course, if we wanted to do it in a different way, we could totally make this. If we wanted to make this whole thing all about elves, we could totally do that. And instead of just human, it's elves. But just single species, and we're just sticking with human for right now, and then everything else is just from all the colors, all everything's all mixed together. So that one, easy peasy. Okay, flesh out the society and style of the kingdom and its occupants. So this one we have to reference another a set of tables. All right, so we're going to put this in here. Looks like we might have to go to another page and check it out. So flesh out the society and style of the kingdom and its occupants. Okay, so the section starting on page 128 can be used to give character. So let's see 128. They're kind of pushing us to jump ahead to 128. So I'm going to go, and I'm not going to share the screen. I'm going to keep it on this kind of Kanban view, but I will go to page 128, and we'll figure out what to do from there. All right, 128, society construction. Every society needs to be built to serve the creator's purpose. Okay. Physical appearances. I don't have a way of doing D8s, and I don't have my dice in front of me. All right, I'm saying all the hues. I'm just saying all the hues are there. I guess maybe the style. Well, we know they wear. Maybe I don't want to jump in. Okay, so we know that they, it's a complete mixture of human, ethnic, of human. I don't even know what to say. Features. They like tunics. They wear tunics of pastel hues, except for the Sandmen who wear. I don't know. It's kind of. Are they sort of jumpsuits? Who wear black and gray colored, let's say, jumpsuits. Other things. So I'm just going to go through. So I'll use these tables they have just to kind of talk about some of the things they want to ask. Typical build. They don't. They're kind of fit, but not muscly. Tend towards fit, athletic builds, but not. Let's see. They're not super. I don't know what's not muscly. I guess thin athletic builds, right? Fit athletic builds. I suppose some of them might get. We don't see any in the movie. I don't know if the books go into if there was some kind of genetic manipulation to kind of to sort of get folks with the most fit, athletic, physical shapes. They don't seem to be super tall or build. Height is average, say 6 feet. Another says out that they were thin to minimize resource use, maybe, but they didn't seem like they were. I don't know. I feel like if it was that thin, that would be noticeable. But certainly, thin to minimize resource use is kind of cool. They didn't seem to be that bad. I felt like I felt it was a good excuse in the movie's part to make it all kind of Hollywood folk. So they're all just very kind of fit, thin, lanky. But it didn't seem so. So what's the word I'm looking for? Overdone or exaggerated to make me think like, oh gosh, these guys haven't seen meals in weeks. But who knows? Maybe. I'll put in parentheses. Thin? Question mark? Let's see. What else have we got here? Common forms of adornment. They wear tunics. They, I suppose that I'm going to say that they're kind of part of their sort of decadence. All of the citizenry, favor. Uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Makeup. makeup, scents, coiffed, hair, fashionable hair. I don't know, hair, different hairstyles. I know. I think part of what they want us to do is come up with. Well, I guess these are still kind of basic, intricate hairstyles of braiding. I think it's just a bunch. I think the things that they definitely have culturally significant. And I'll put it up here. According to their stage in their life clock stage. I think that's the one thing maybe we could say is kind of locked in there. No, nothing says. The main thing about the dome culture is hedonism. I don't get the impression they are making new music, sculptures, films. Yeah, that I agree. I absolutely agree. I think that they are simply enjoying life. There's not a lot of creativity. In fact, I would say there's basically none. Right? They're not making anything up. They're living off of just what they have. And any kind of let's create new things, which in some ways I could see being perceived as being dangerous because if you start to try to push edges, you start to make waves, you start to bump into these very well set perimeters, and they don't want you to break. So maybe they breed out or however they've done, just gotten rid of or suppressed a lot of the stuff that in different ways, culturally and physically might make them try to push out past the perimeter. Okay, optional physical quirks or traits. Well, I guess their main quirk is the life clock crystal. Was it in their right? I want to say it's their right palm, but someone correct me. It might have been their left. Maybe it doesn't even matter. I don't even know if they made a concerted effort to say in which hand it was. But that's their main quirk. All right, I think that works as far as the. And I guess as far as society goes, we want to say society is based on life clock stages. It doesn't seem like there's much of a hierarchy. It seems like people are pretty much. I guess I don't even want to say that because I don't remember that they were different colors seem to be able to fit together. Society is what's the word I'm thinking about? It's is very free and open within the strict adherence to carousel rules, I guess, just for lack of a better word. The only, I guess, I would say all authority is concentrated amongst sandmen who stand somewhat apart from the rest of the citizenry. Right? I think that's the one thing we could say. I think we could say that. I think that seems about right. Right? Within Carousel, assuming you're doing everything according to Carousel, it seems like it's very free, very open. I don't think we got the sense in the movie that there's some kind of clicks from your whatever color you are in your life clock. That doesn't seem to be something that's strictly important. It's only important when you're getting ready to have to go and be renewed. Obviously, that becomes a thing. But other than that, it seems like it's very free and open. It's only the Sandmen that have that a little bit of a standoffish, or maybe have to stand apart a little bit because they seem to be the only real authority figures. It doesn't seem like anybody else interacts directly with the AI. It's really the AI giving the marching orders to the Sandmen, who then do what they have to do in managing the citizenry, right? So I think that is good. And we're coming up to the end of the hour, so let's see. I gotta go back now. We have to go back. Let's see. Back. Okay. Assign local gods and religious traditions. This one we know about in spades, right? Because this is one thing we got. Sign local gods and religious traditions. The citizenry, worship the cycle of carousel. We haven't fleshed out their god yet, but ultimately, that's kind of behind it. But and whatever else may be working. But for the main thing, I think to keep in mind, right? The carousel. The main, kind of the only, I think, maybe the only tradition, or at least the main one. Main tradition is the act of renewal, during which citizens, and I think they might have given us the age. I'm going to say 33 years. I don't know why. It might have been 30. I don't remember exactly what number they gave. I don't know, 33. Let's see. During which citizens, there's no apostrophe there, who reach 33 years, ritually terminated to, I guess, donate, I guess, renew their souls in the bodies of newly born citizens. Okay. It's really the only tradition, and we can build out more, but I think for now this will work. Carousel's main tradition is the act of renewal, during which citizens who reach 33 years, I guess, of age are ritually terminated. And I'm just going to, all right, killed. If you didn't know what that meant, we're talking about them being killed, to renew their souls in the bodies of newly born citizens. So I think that about is good for that. We don't know. We're not given anything else about it. So if we wanted to develop more cultural or religious traditions, we can. There's definitely a thing about the Cubs reaching, I think, 15. Maybe that's adulthood. It's 15. So maybe that might be important in some way. But we can figure that out down the line. Well, we got two things here. So the good news is that is the last of the Q&A section of the kingdom. So we have finished the initial Q&A. Bad news is we reached the end of the hour before we were able to get into building out that geography. So we'll save that one for the next one. We're at a great sense of stopping point. Great point to put down our pens, virtual pens in this case, and we can start to think back what we've done so far. I don't know if there's a great way for me to. One thing with Miro is it has the free one has very limited options for sharing things. I don't know if there's an easy way for me to export this. I could take a screenshot. They allow a way of screenshotting these things, but of course then you just get not even the entire question without the answer part. So I figured out a way to do that. Maybe I will share it somewhere. I hope everyone's enjoying this so far. Leave a thumbs up for the stream if you would, if you thought this was useful. If you're in here and you're not subscribed and you want to think, wow, I really like this. I dig it. I want more. Well, go ahead and subscribe and you'll be notified when the next one comes along. Tomorrow, today is Thursday, right? Have I got that right? Have I not lost my mind? So tomorrow we will not be doing one of these. We will be back to checking out Reddit for our weekly look at the OSR Reddit group. So stay tuned for that one. It's always fun. And we should come up and hit this back next week sometime. My game was pushed theoretically to tomorrow. So maybe on Monday I'll do the recap for that. I don't know. We'll see. But if you become subscribed, you will see that I try to update the community tab on the YouTube channel regularly with updates of what's coming every morning, kind of what I'm doing that day. So check that out and you will see the schedule. But thanks for joining and hanging out and contributing. And I look forward to seeing what we come up with as we continue on. Have a great rest of your day. Game on. I'll talk to you later.